Don, first and foremost, congratulations and welcome home.
Well, thank you very much. It's great to be home. It's great to be back in the state of Wisconsin, and certainly in a hockey capacity.
Now, talk a little bit about your decision on joining the staff. You, Mark, and Tony, your brother. I mean, for everybody on the outside, you look at that staff for the Wisconsin Badgers, and everybody feels like Barry Alvarez hit a home run with you guys all coming in.
Yeah. I mean, Barry Alvarez deserves a lot of credit. I think he was under some scrutiny and, took some blame for, the product wasn't great the last few years. And I think the fans, in my opinion, unfairly so, Barry took some heat. I think he's always cared about the program. I think he just allowed the coach and the coaching staff that was here the respect of running it. Those were the guys that were hired. Those were the guys that, quite frankly, did a fine job in winning the national championship in 2006, even though they struggled, recently. But when Barry did step in and felt it necessary to make a change, he went out of his way, obviously, to pull Tony out of the NHL. Tony had been there for 28 years. Obviously, he's still there finishing up the season with the Red Wings now. Myself and Mark were not in the college game either, so he had to draw us all back in. And, he went out. He told everybody that the top 4 candidates for the job as the head coach were Marco Siki, Mark Johnson, myself, and everybody told him that he'd never get Tony out of the NHL. But he did. He got. He didn't only get Tony as the head coach. He got 3 guys that he thought were capable of head coaching in his mind, and it's awesome for us to all be here together.
Well, Coach, now this is Pat Mickish here. With everything changing so quickly for you, where does the focus go? They're busy with their own teams. I know you've kind of already started out the process in Madison. What is the changing process? Is it a heavy recruiting load? Is it just trying to catch up with the players you have there? Where's everything at?
Well, first of all, Mick, you're a great interviewer because that's a great question. Secondly, I rely on guys like yourself. You and I have already had conversations, but you guys that are the coaches in the USHL, beyond coaching your teams and doing an incredible job, the player pool better than anybody in the country. I mean, you're the guys that stand behind that bench. When you go out and you watch those players, you have a vision of how is this guy going to help me win? Not how talented he is, how is he going to help me win? That's the bottom line. So lots of calls to guys like yourself to get different opinions on players we may have coming in here, scheduled to come in here, and then lots of calls to the NHL guys to find out what the players are that we have here. We've been able to work with the players, obviously, inside the context of what the NCAA allows. So I've been in Madison. I was not in Green Bay last weekend with the 17s, so I missed that trip. But I'm already in the trenches here. So it's all encompassing right now. We're trying to sort through what we have coming in. Is it going to fit our plan and our objectives as a coaching staff, and then what we have here? And I will say, Mike Eaves. Although the team has struggled in the win column the last 2 years, anybody that knows Mike Eaves knows that there's plenty of structure that he left behind. He's an outstanding coach. We are not inheriting a team that's starting from scratch. There's a discipline, there's a focus, there's a commitment to team, to the university, to teammates that Mike proved through his coaching career to be exceptional at. So, we're walking in with a pretty good foundation from that standpoint. Now it's going to take us some time to sort through what we want specifically from the player and depth within our lineup. What type of player do we want to bring in? What type of game do we want to play? And match that up with maybe what's here or not here.
Yeah, Don, Scott Jewett here. This kind of follows along with that foundation. With your resume at every level of hockey, does your approach change when you come back into the college game now, coming from the development side of things? Does your approach change at all with this age of kid?
I've talked with different NHL teams over the years, and when we talked about maybe going to work for them or working for them, the question always seems to be, is it development or is it winning? What's the focus when you're running an American League team? And, over the years in being involved in the game, what I've learned is development is winning. You've got to work to develop your product. and that's a focus point here. One huge advantage for me was last year, with the 18 team, we came in this building to play Wisconsin. We played Minnesota. We played Michigan. So for me, I did the pre-scouts for those games, obviously laid out the game plan going into Yost Arena or going into the Kohl Center or Mariucci Arena. I got a great feel for the college level and the college game. So it's not like I'm walking in cold turkey, because we played these teams, quite a bit at my, with my last 5 years at the national team program. So I've got a really good feel for it. It's interesting. It's fun to have this as a challenge. I do think, having done pre-scout and watched Wisconsin, there's a lot of things that Tony and Mark will bring to the table that we can, again, work off a foundation that Mike's left behind to enhance this product pretty quick. So that'll be exciting. We obviously want to get marquee players in here. There's a player, Luke Cunnin, who Badger fans know is a freshman. He was on my team a year ago at the national team program. That roster at the national team program might end up having 10 first-round picks on it by the end of this draft. And so it was a pretty special team. Those are the types of players we want to get in here. We don't have enough of them here, or those are the players we're targeting and hope to get over the next couple of years.
Don, Pat here again, and being in Green Bay now for 5 years, I quickly realized that Wisconsin's a bigger hockey state than I ever knew growing up in Michigan and when I was away playing some hockey. But Green Bay, we have the Gamblers, we have St. Norbert's, but I think the state has kind of had that little bit of bond with Wisconsin hockey. And do you feel that pressure? Is that something that just builds excitement for you?
There's pressure in all our jobs. I mean, you know that as well as anybody. And it's something when you're in the trenches, you don't feel pressure. You're so pressed with the task of today. You're so focused on, okay, how is today leading to tomorrow and in 6 months from now? Those objectives are laid out. So you're in the battle. You're in the trenches. You don't, in essence, feel the pressure. If you stop and you think about it, yeah. But it's no different than any other job. It is. You're absolutely right. When I played here back in the late 80s and early 90s, the games were televised through the state of Wisconsin. We actually had two competing radio stations that covered the game. So when we go on the road, we would have two radio stations in their play-by-play and their color and traveling with us. That's how. And so in the summertime, if I'd go to a place and go fishing up north, I could walk in a place and people would recognize you. It was shocking to me as a young athlete at that time, and you realized pretty quick how big Badger hockey was. So it's pretty neat. We know that we have to get it back to that level, to that standard. We won't stop until we do. I can assure you that that's a mission that the three of us are on. That's something we accepted in coming here, that we know there's a lot of work to be done. The funny thing is, and I've said this a lot, sorry to roll on here, but a lot of people, Pat, talk to me about, hey, you're going to go in to coach the Badgers. And I would not entertain that thought for 1 second. You couldn't get me to start talking about it. My reply would be, hey, first of all, they got a great coach there. I'm not going to be thinking about doing that. But secondly, from the professional standpoint, our jobs are so intense as coaches that we can't afford to have our minds somewhere else. And if I'm coaching the national team, I can't afford to be thinking about going into the Badgers. It's daydreaming. It's fantasy world. So I can tell you, we honestly never thought of this, Tony and I, from the standpoint of we're going there. So we're really excited now because we wouldn't let our mind shift there. But when Barry talked Tony into doing it, and then made an offer to myself and Oz, it was at that point we got really excited. But we are coming back here with a sense of obligation. We know that this team needs to turn around, and it's the obligation that's driving us every day.
Looking at what you did for our program to start it up, winning the Clark Cup in the second year of it, it just seems like every time you're in town, when you're on the opposing bench, you got sometimes a bigger roar from our crowd than other coaches. And I just want to ask you, is there a fond memory that you have of your time here in Green Bay that you remember as you move forward?
Well, I mean, number one is just the relationships that were built there. I knew when I took the job we'd be successful because of the community. I was playing as a player in the East Coast League. I loved being a player. I never wanted to quit. But if you offered me a job in another USHL city, I would have went back and played. I believed after playing for the Badgers in the community of Wisconsin that it is, and specifically the city of Green Bay, that area. I thought it'd be a great place to sell parents on sending their kids to me. I figured we'd have great billet families and people that cared about them and fans that cared about them. I was right on all of that. So for me, I remember that panic going in and nervousness. And I said, you know what, I took this job because I knew it would be great. I knew we would be successful. We're going to get through this. We're going to make this a champion. And it was twofold. It was that and the players that we got. The players were awesome to coach. Great people. We were character-based recruiting. We figured we'd develop from there. That's why the first year we had 9 wins and 34 losses, I believe. But we took all first-year kids. I said, much like the national team program, I said, you know what, we'll take our lumps the first year, but let's get character people in here and develop them. And we did, and then the next 2 years we won the regular season, and at that point the national tournament. And it was again, the community and the kids themselves. It was awesome to be a part of. And you mentioned all those coaches. My biggest goal, I think, was establishing a junior program that would stay there forever and have a top-notch program. All the coaches that followed me made sure that they're awesome guys, and I couldn't be prouder to have been associated with all of that.
Well, Don, we're running up against it here. We appreciate your time. Best of luck this year as you guys rebuild the Wisconsin Badgers program. And once again, congratulations, you, Tony, and Mark. Like we said before, that's a home run for that program. And like we said, best of luck along the way.
Thank you, and best of luck in the playoffs there, Mick. I'll be watching.
All right, thank you very much.